5 days.
Even today, between 10 and 2 p.m., we had pauses of fighting in the area of the humanitarian corridor.
General Doron Spielman says that allowed some 50,000 Palestinians to evacuate from northern to southern Gaza as the fight with Hamas intensifies.
We are now closing in on Hamas in very thick door-to-door, alley-to-alley fighting, and we are making great progress. This would not be the time to allow our enemies to regroup.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the White House have rejected calls for a general ceasefire, saying it would only help Hamas. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby emphasizing efforts to get the hostages out of Gaza, but he won't confirm reports that President Biden requested a 3-day pause during a call with Netanyahu. President Biden's son, Hunter, and brother James are being subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee as part of a probe the Republican committee chairman says shows an influence peddling scheme.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says Republicans are doubling down on a baseless smear campaign.
This is an investigation that has been going on for a year now and has turned up zero evidence of wrongdoing by the president because there is none.
Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy authorized an impeachment inquiry of President Biden earlier this year.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Police in Detroit just announcing a suspect in custody for the murder of local synagogue leader Samantha Wall, who was found stabbed outside her home last month. Investigators have previously said they believe she was stabbed in the home, then stumbled outside, that there was no sign of forced entry. They are not saying who is in custody, only that for now, the investigation continues. A mixed finish on Wall Street. The Dow down 39 points at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What's up?
I'm tired of feeling so bloated.
That used to be me. Then I got this.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion. A probiotic, right?
Yeah, it works naturally with your gut to help soothe occasional bloating and gas. Plus, it has vitamin B12 to aid digestion by helping convert food to cellular energy. 2 benefits, 1 capsule.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Learn more at alignprobiotics.com.
Why are central banks quietly amassing mountains of gold? Because they know the dollar won't last. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your IRA or 401k into physical gold with Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get a free info kit on gold by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. So text SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit now.
The Justice Department announcing it's investigating the city of Lexington, Mississippi, and its police department over possible civil rights violations, including excessive force. The 11th such probe opened during the Biden administration. A new version of a diabetes treatment is approved for weight loss.
The Food and Drug Administration is giving a thumbs up to Eli Lilly's hotly anticipated obesity drug for what is expected to be one of the top-selling medicines in history. Lilly's diabetes drug Mounjaro will now include the treatment of obesity. The FDA's decision furthers the rapid rise of Mounjaro and similar acting treatments like Ozempic and Wegovy that have collectively reshaped the treatment of obesity. The new approval means adults who have obesity or are overweight with at least one weight-related condition can use the medication, which will be marketed as Zepbound.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. The list price will be the same as Mounjaro, about $1,000 a month. Also today, Britain's health regulator authorizing Mounjaro for weight loss and management in the UK. House Republicans elect a new member of leadership.
Utah Congressman Blake Moore is the new vice chair of the House Republican Conference, a job that worked out pretty well for his predecessor, Mike Johnson, who went on to become Speaker of the House. Moore acknowledging to Fox News that with a slim majority and Democrats controlling the Senate and White House, there's going to be challenges ahead.
It's a tough environment in Washington right now. It's a split government type of thing, and we're creating as many wins as we possibly can as we move forward with this.
The 43-year-old beat out a crowded field with 6 other candidates vying for the job. He's only been in Congress since 2021 and serves on the Budget, Natural Resources, and Armed Services Committees. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
Recapping the mixed finish on Wall Street after a choppy day of trading, the Dow drops about 40 points, but the S&P and the NASDAQ finish higher. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois, Champaign-Urbana vicinity, and a nice, delightful day's worth of wind blown. Perhaps more or less early September weather across the area, with temperatures well into the 70s. Cold front will come through the area, knocking temperatures down to more seasonal levels. Another big warm-up slated for next week. Windy and warm as expected for the day-to-day. Partly sunny skies, maybe a sprinkle this morning and a spray shower late this afternoon at 77. That south wind 15 to 25 and gusty. Lingering shower too early on tonight. No big deal in the rainfall. Winds will shift around into the northwest and diminish. Low down to 48. Tomorrow, breezy, much cooler, partly cloudy skies and a high to about 56 degrees. Into the upper 30s tomorrow night. Sunshine and a high on Friday of about 55. Quiet weather for the weekend with middle 50s by day, lower 30s at night. Getting close to 60 on Monday, lower 60s Tuesday, into the 60s Wednesday, and 70s late next week. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Stolye.
It's been too long. Good morning. It is The Drive with Tay and Piper. Latte, no Derek Piper for now. He will be here before the show is over. It is a big day over at Ubben for both Illini basketball programs, and Derek Piper is there to hear from Brad Underwood. Shauna Green spoke today. Chris Thomas spoke today. A lot of recruiting news to go through, and we're going to get you covered, especially when Derek Piper comes in the 4 o'clock hour. Also at 4:30, Joey Wagner from IlliniInquirer.com. He is taken over as that lead beat writer for the Illini women's basketball team. They signed a top 20 recruit today, a 5-star included in their 2 signings. So a good day for both basketball programs, and we welcome you in. Again, it is The Drive with Tay and Piper. I'm Lante. Kyle Tosk running the board because, to be transparent, I don't know how to do it now because we have a brand new system, and I am going to have to sit down with you, Kyle, and you're going to have to show me what in the world I'm doing because every time I come around the desk now and I see what I'm looking at, I run back to the other side. I don't even attempt. You showed me one thing yesterday, and I think I got the first 3. There's like a 10-part.
I was going through the steps, and I finished step 2, and you're like, I'm done. That's it for today.
Well, we got through 3, I think.
Yeah,
I got through 3. I was like, nah, then just show me those 3, and then we'll do 3 more tomorrow because that's how I process stuff. I can't take all 10 at once. So, all right, Illinois basketball, obviously the men and women both signing today. The men on the men's side signed 3 recruits for the basketball season, including the front-runner, Morez Johnson Jr. It is an interesting thing, Kyle, when you look at a kid like Morez. He is one that basically said yes to Illinois his freshman year of high school. And
I was seeing he committed on November 5th, 2021. It's now November 8th, 2023, so over 2 years to the day.
Sophomore. Yeah, he's
signing. It's so rare nowadays.
It really is, and he is one that I can remember back then, you were a little skeptical to think, okay, well, he's going to say yes, but there's 2 years to go. He's going to be recruited by some of the heavyweights, but he has absolutely kept his promise for 2 years and today signed with Illinois as someone that is a really solid prospect, top 35 national recruit, and he is a kid that obviously is an animal on the boards. He and Amani Hansberry, I cannot wait for the future to watch those two play basketball together because I think when they're both out there, I don't think a rebound will go to the opposite team. I think it will all be either Amani or Morez Johnson, but he is someone that, as Brad Underwood said, we hit a home run in this class. I couldn't be happier, unquote, and that's talking about Morez Johnson. Overall, it's the 5th top 20 class of Brad Underwood's Illini tenure. This class currently ranks 17 by 24/7 Sports, 19th by Rivals. You've got him, Morez Johnson, of course, Jason Jax, I can't even say it. Jaxtis, that's it. Thank you. Ranked the number 4 player in the state of Illinois. A little bit of a project, I believe, as a big man. He's 6'10", out of Yorkville. So he is one that I think they hope that a couple of years down the road with Fletch's help, they can gain some strength, and obviously he can play in the middle. And then, of course, Jace Butler, who is one of those California kids that really didn't have a lot of big offers. He's 6'5", 190, and more than anything, Kyle, I think this Illinois team just loved the idea of a big guard. At 6'5" and 190, that is a big kid. He's ranked 132 overall by Rivals and 169 by 27 Sports. So, again, he kind of came out of nowhere as a guy that Illinois recruited. Chester Frazier was the guy on this, but I'm guessing that Chester, Kyle, saw stuff that maybe he used to do. And I think that big guard is something they like, especially in the Big Ten, when you know you're going to have other universities that have bigger guards that can back you down, et cetera. You look at a guy like Ty Rogers is built like that as well. So that's a pretty good haul right there. A top 20 haul, 17th by 24/7 Sports, led by Morez Johnson. That's your future, Kyle. You're a freshman at Illinois. You've got you're going to have
these. I'm
sorry, sophomore. That's my bad. You did graduate your freshman year.
A year. So I did not get held back. No.
You're going to have these kids for 2 years essentially under your belt here at the University of Illinois, and by the time you're a senior, I'm guessing that at least with Morez Johnson, you're going to be seeing a lot of production out of him.
Yeah, I am fired up about Morez Johnson. I mean, this class is definitely one to be excited about, but I think the primary reason for that is the big fish that you landed in Morez, and the fact that, like you were saying, I mean, I'm sure that through 2 years of a guy that just has continually got better, and you see some of the performances he's putting up on the AAU circuit and some of these big events that you talked about during the summer, you can't tell me that there weren't some programs that were trying to pry in there and make contact through their various channels and, gauge, hey, how strong is that commitment there to the Illini that you made as a sophomore in high school? And for Illinois for starters, for him to commit that early and to stay committed for as long as he did and eventually now get to signing day where he signs is just something that's so rare nowadays. But for Illinois to get him as early as they did and to keep him and haul him in is really, really impressive. And he's a monster. He's one of those guys that, especially when we talk about lose how many starters you're going to lose, how much production you're going to lose next year. Like, he's going to come in as a freshman next year, and he's going to be a big-time piece for next year's team.
That's a great point, Kyle. We talked about that yesterday. You got to replace 4 starters next season.
And I'll be fascinated to see how they go about trying to build a team around him, especially as it comes to the portal and a guard to pair with him and certain things like that. But, yeah, I'm excited about him. And then Jaxtis and Butler are two that are
kind of reaches
under the radar a little bit. It's one of those where you just got to trust the evaluation that the staff put on those two guys, and I'll be curious to hear Pipes talk about those guys again when he gets in here, because he's seen them play a lot more than I have, which is none. I haven't seen them play, but yeah, I'm excited about this class, and I think it just. Every year, Illinois is a player and is going to keep hauling in. What do you say? 5th top 20 class. Underwood's been here 7 years. 5th top 20 class. That's just
they get it done.
A sign of what Brad Underwood and the staff has been able to do on the recruiting front.
Morez, a leading candidate, of course, for Mr. Basketball. This is what he said why he chose Illinois. Quote, "I chose Illinois because I wanted to stay home to represent my home state. I also love the coaching staff. I've built a great relationship with all the coaches. And then I think this is a big part of this quote. I trust that this program can help me get to the next level." And that's kind of the next thing for Illinois, is to get guys to that next level. You feel like Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins will be that guy that gets there. Of course, Io obviously playing in the NBA. So the more you get into the NBA, the more you get into the league, the easier it is. I would say the one negative, if you wanted to post a negative about this, and you kind of addressed it there, is the idea that you made such an early splash with Morez Johnson, and to be able to basically as a sophomore in high school know that you've got one of the top 30 players essentially in the country coming to play basketball for you, and on the heels of 4 trips now to the NCAA tournament, 3 or 4, you would think all that together, you would hope that you would have made another bit of a splash when it came to getting someone else that is a top 100 kind of kid to pair with Morez Johnson. So I guess if you wanted to look at any kind of a negative on a day when normally we just talk positive on the recruiting front, I guess you could say that was the case, that they kind of didn't make that second splash with this. That doesn't mean that Jaxtis or that the other young man, Jace Butler, and it's Jace, Jase. I know when you hear that you want to think Chase, but it's Jace Butler. No reason why those two can't someday, earn that starting nod and to the point where you're like, all right, that's a solid recruit. But certainly I think not getting that second splash, Kyle, is something that you can look at a little bit negative with this.
Yeah, I think you could. And I am interested with a guy like Jaxtis. It feels like while he isn't, maybe he's a little under-recruited and under the radar, it does feel like the type of guy that you would want to see them go after to pair with a Morez Johnson type or a Hansberry type, because he's one of those guys that can step out and space the floor a little bit and is kind of that 4-man that can go next to a big bruising 5. So I'm curious to see that play out. But, yeah, it felt like the way the class started and even the progression of, like, Morez's teammate, James Brown, who Illinois was targeting for a while, and they had that other teammate with the long name, Noyes something. I wish I knew his last name. And it seemed like that once they landed him, there was a lot of momentum for some of these higher ranked kids. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that those guys are going to be better than these guys, but it felt like, to get as big of a prospect as Morez so early on and to not really follow that and pair that with, maybe the high 4-star big time prospects. I could see why you would question that a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think, getting him, and then I know we'll ask Pipes about it, but, Jeremiah Fears is a guy who he's talked about could end up reclassing into this class.
Right.
And so it's not, it may not be over for this class here.
That's fair. Noyes Indricitis or something something like that.
You got it. I think you got it.
It sounds like a medicine. Like I don't know if it's it's something like that, but certainly a kid that really was looked really good and then kind of fell off a little bit. So, but that's on the men's side. And again, Derek Piper will be here in the 4 hour, maybe a little bit earlier. And we can get his thoughts on these three for the men. And then, of course, at 4:30, Joey Wagner is going to join us because the Illini women's basketball team started their season last night, winning by 20, winning comfortably. They're ranked 23rd in the country. Isn't it nice to have both basketball programs ranked? The women 23rd in the country, the men 25th. And
it is incredible. Sorry to cut you off there, but
no, you're good.
You think about a year ago at this time, if I would have told you the Illinois women's basketball program would be ranked preseason.
No.
Unfathomable.
It really
it's unbelievable that we're talking about that right now.
I mean, they couldn't win a game in the Big Ten. They could hardly win a Big Ten game under Nancy Fay. So to now all of a sudden do what they've done, and I guess the goal for Shauna Green's crew is to make sure that wasn't an outlier. And last night, Genesis Bryant throws up 32. They have so much talent on this team in general, and everybody came back. You're talking about a team that made it to the NCAA tournament, albeit the first game and lost, but everyone's back now on this team. And I'm forgetting now underneath who joined us last year. She had a double-double. Now, why am I forgetting her name?
Kendall Bostic.
That's it. Kendall Bostic had, I think, 15 and 13 last night in the game. But Bryant missed one shot inside the arc. I think she was 10 of 11 inside the arc. She also hit a couple threes. And everybody kind of got in the scoring for this Illini women's squad.
Makira Cook didn't even play.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Your all Big Ten first-team player didn't even play. So a good opening win for Shauna Green and her squad. It's going to be another exciting season. And then today they went to work on the recruiting trail, knocking down 2 recruits, including 6'6" center Haven Smith, who's an Illinois product. She's out of Lincoln Way East High School, 6'6". And that was the one thing last year on that team that the size – when Kendall Bostic would go to the bench, they were really hurting for that. They brought in a couple of recruits this year from the portal to help with that, but now they've got Haven Smith on the way. And then also, and I hate to say it, but the kind of the sparkler of this class, Barry Wallace from Pickerington, Ohio. She is a top 20 recruit from ESPN Hoop Girls recruiting ranking, number 20 overall, a 5-star recruit. She is a 6'1" forward. You think they weren't thinking size when they went into this class? 6'1" forward, 5-star product, and then also Haven Smith, who's 6'6". I was reading something today that I believe all of was it Haven or was it Barry Wallace? One of the two, I think they all play college basketball. And like her dad played college basketball, and like all of her brothers and sisters play college basketball. And, of course, she's coming to the University of Illinois. So Shauna Green, I think, went with size. And I think she kind of understood what they have on this squad and what they need some help with. And to bring in Kyle, which is almost – it's not, because recruits, sometimes you can land a recruit and you're like, wait a minute, how did that school get that person? You know, it's like, what? So this isn't as crazy as you telling me last year at this time that next season Illinois would be ranked 23rd in the country to start the season on the women's side. But to land then a top 20 recruit in Shauna Green's, essentially her first recruiting class, if you want to say it that way, in terms of spending enough time to go out and get people, that's pretty impressive to bring in someone in the top 20 in the country, Kyle. And I think that's something that just tells you that going forward, I don't think Shauna Green's program is going backwards at all.
No, everything about this program is pointed upwards. I mean, from being ranked preseason to, if I told you last year they were going to be ranked, you wouldn't believe me. If I told you a top 20 recruit would be interested in playing for Illinois on the women's side,
but not coming,
you'd be like, well, they're lying. That's not true.
It's crazy.
They're just being nice. But yeah, no, it's what Shauna Green has done in just over a year with this program is incredible, because it was a completely dead program. What was it? They had won 7 Big Ten games in 5 years or whatever it was.
It's almost impossible to be that bad.
And just it seemed like whoever the next coach was going to be, there's no way they were going to turn this thing around in 1-2 years. Like, it was going to be a 4, 5, 6 year process to even get back to respectability of any kind. And this is a team that makes the NCAA tournament in year one, hauls in a top 20 recruit, is ranked preseason, high expectations, all conference level players on this roster. It's really impressive.
It is awesome. So they did some work today, both Shauna Green and Brad Underwood. And again, I want to reiterate that in the 4 hour, our guy Derek Piper will be here. And, man, this is the stuff that he really excels at. He's good at whatever you talk about, but Pipes really excels when it comes to recruiting, especially on the men's side, as he, of course, is the lead beat writer, obviously, for IlliniInquirer.com, as well as co-host of The Drive with Tay and Piper. So we'll talk to Derek Piper about this class coming up. We'll probably hear a little bit from Shauna Green and Brad Underwood if we get a chance. Also, Joey Wagner from IlliniInquirer.com, who covers the women's team as well as anyone. He's going to join us at 4:30 to talk about the opening win last night and also the recruiting class for Shauna Green. I know that Joey Wagner kind of jumped on that beat last year, and it just kind of grew. And it was one of those where I'm sure, knowing Joey like I know Joey, he was just excited to dig in and find some compelling stories. That's what he loves to do. But then as that team just kept getting better and better, he had more fun just covering that team and watching them win and set unprecedented things, essentially, for Shauna Green and this squad. So we'll talk to Joey Wagner at 4:30, Pipes at 4 o'clock. That is kind of your recruiting rundown on today's signing day for the University of Illinois. No surprises, so that's usually saved for football when you all of a sudden pick up someone you didn't think you were going to get, or you lose someone you thought you had. So in that sense, that's the good news today, that everything went as planned for both programs. Of course, Illinois football getting ready to host a game this weekend, an 11 a.m. game against I about said tailgate because I want to talk about that in a minute, against Indiana, and they owe them, right? We owe Indiana from last season. It is the Big Ten Network they're coming down, and it's kind of the Big Ten tailgate. They're going to show. They're going to have their show live from, I believe, Grange Grove would be my assumption. So this Saturday, you'll have a chance to maybe get in the background and be on TV on the Big Ten Network. Now, last year when they came over and filmed our tailgate crew. And we got on. We all got on the air, right? We all got on the opening. But at one point, the guy was like watching me crack an egg and grill like bacon and eggs. So what he would do is he'd focus in as I began to crack the egg, and then he would pan out and come up to me, and I'm like, "Go Illini!" You know, I'm doing all this. Man. The only thing they show is me cracking the egg. So if you know what my hand looks like,
so then only your hand made it on the broadcast.
The Big Ten Network only showed my hand, but I did do a one-handed crack of the egg, which I thought was halfway impressive. I didn't need the two hands. I just did one hand, boom.
That is pretty impressive.
I mean, listen, I was impressed with myself on that, and good enough to get on the Big Ten Network. So it's fun, and when you're there early, they're always walking around with the cameras. They're wanting to get the feel of the tailgate. So if everybody gets a chance to get out there early, come out. We'll be there at 7, ready to roll. Kyle, you still haven't made it. Not only at 7 a.m., but you haven't made a tailgate at all. Afterwards, before.
I said I was going to stop by, and then certain things pop up, and I don't end up making a pie.
All right.
I need to.
I don't take it personal, obviously. Like, I've forgotten about it, that you had been there. But, it's still there. The invitation's open to you to come. And maybe one day it won't be. So you probably ought to take advantage of it while you can. Yeah. So, Lot 31, baby. That's where it's at, and that's where it's going to be this Saturday, Illinois, Indiana. It's kind of improbable after Nebraska and – the Penn State game, you figured. Who's the next game I'm thinking about? Purdue, yeah. Who you just literally got smoked the second half. It's kind of an improbable thing. And then after Wisconsin, and of course you lose Johnny Newton in that second half. That was a big difference, if not the difference, in losing to the Badgers. And then to sit there and think, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go beat Maryland on the road, and then we're going to go ahead and take down Minnesota as well on the road. This team plays better on the road. Brett Bielema, in his tenure, Illinois has always played better on the road. So now you're back home against Indiana, and it was the one road game last year, Kyle, you didn't win. It was over in Bloomington. Obviously, there were a couple road wins you didn't win, but one you expected to win. We need to take care of the Hoosiers and get a little kind of revenge.
You do. You absolutely need to get revenge after last year, because that game really was the downfall of not winning the West and not having the season that you could have had. And just for this season, all of a sudden, with that Minnesota win, like, bowl eligibility should happen for this team.
Yeah.
You have Indiana and Northwestern at home, and you can beat Iowa on the road. I mean, Iowa's offense is awful. You can win that game, but you should beat Indiana and Northwestern at home, and there shouldn't be any excuses to not get to 6.
Yeah.
And that starts this weekend. And as you mentioned, this team's played a lot better on the road. They've been prone to some letdown home games under Brett Bielema. They can't let that happen this weekend against an Indiana team that I know they just beat Wisconsin somehow this past weekend, but that's their only conference win. They've largely been horrible. You need to take care of them at home, regardless of which quarterback starts. It's just you got to get this one.
I know I tweeted out that Jerry Palm, in his projections for bowl games, now that Illinois had won that game against Minnesota, had Illinois projected to the Las Vegas Bowl on December 23rd. I believe that's it is a Saturday because Christmas falls on a Monday. That kind of stinks. Like, they should make a rule, like, you can't have Christmas on Monday. But nevertheless,
they would move it to they just switch the date of
I don't
Christmas?
know. Like, Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday, right? Isn't that funny how we always do Thanksgiving on Thursday? It doesn't matter the date. But Christmas, of course, is always the 25th. So you're right. And you know what? I don't like Mondays, so that'll make for a good Monday. And then all of a sudden it's Tuesday, and you didn't have to work a Monday. That's going to be the key to that, I think. But back to the bowl projections, I just kind of snickered. I'm like, all right, Illinois and USC, kind of a Big Ten preview for the next 5 years, battling. And, of course, Caleb Williams and Johnny Newton, those two won't play in that game if that happens. Yeah. So we know that's the case. But it would be nice, and it's cool to just kind of think about, to think towards the future to see, all right, what does 6 wins get you? 7 wins, I assume, would be that Quick Lane Bowl or that Mayo Bowl or whatever it is. I don't think it gets you into the Nashville, the Music City Bowl. I don't think, although Illinois won, 8 games last year and got into the nice bowl down in Tampa. So maybe 7 wins get you into that Music City. I'm not sure, but I'd certainly take that. A quick trip to Nashville, 5 hours. Let's go have some fun there and watch Illinois in a bowl game would be fun. So, it's kind of weird. And I know this is what we do to ourselves, and this is what Illinois football does to us, but it's kind of neat to now think about it. You got 4 wins, and you're always going to have those games of the what if. You said it, Indiana last year, Nebraska this year, Wisconsin this year, where you felt like you had that, you were up 21-7 in that game going into the second half. So there's always those what if games, like we could have won the West, we could have been in a better bowl game. But if this team can somehow rally and get to 7 wins and then head to a bowl game, that'd be pretty solid and pretty good work by Brett Bielema and his staff and his players, obviously, to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take 6 wins and just get me there.
Amen.
And then maybe you get the 7th in the bowl game. Yeah, I just think, I think even if you do, let's say you beat Indiana and Northwestern at home, lose to Iowa, 6-6, go to a bowl game, I still think there's going to be a large majority of this fan base that's disappointed still with what this team did in terms of just relative to expectations and some of the opponents they lost to. But it really is no short feat to go to bowl games back-to-back years. We talked about it, a couple weeks ago.
That doesn't happen at Illinois very often.
They've been to back-to-back bowl games one time in the last 30 years. So to do it
crazy.
2 years in a row, truly, while you can still be a little bit disappointed with some of the games they left out there, I still think you should be satisfied with that, and it would be a credit to everybody. It could have easily just crumbled and been a 4-win season, very easily. I mean, when Jay's been in here, he said Illinois was a 4-win team after that Nebraska game. That's what he thought, and if they can get it turned around and get to bowl eligibility, I don't think that should be overlooked. And at this point, I think it needs to happen.
U of I Atlanta Lake text line. I was going to go through a couple of these before we catch a break. We're going to come back and talk Chicago Cubs baseball, hiring Craig Counsell for $8 million a year. We're even going to hear from not Ricketts. It's
Jed Hoyer. It is funny though, because that news happened on Monday, and it's now Wednesday, and we're finally maybe going to get to it. But then you keep stalling. It's already 3:30
already.
Every time there's some Cubs news, there's something positive.
I think of something to talk about.
We just never could talk about it. I see exactly what's going on here.
We had the win against Minnesota. We had Jay and Altmaier, and then Tuesday we had the Illini basketball win and Luke Goody, and we just had a lot of things going on. But we're going to get to Craig Counsell. I'm going to let you steal the show in this next segment. But to quickly get to the U of I Atlanta Lake text line, a couple there, 217 said the last kid that played at Yorkville is currently playing at Duke. Hopefully that this kid can be better. And, of course, talking Jaden Schutt, who played at Yorkville Christian, who's more of a 1A school. I know that because my son played against that team last season. So, we'll hope that the 6'10 kid can come and make a difference here. Matt says, Lon, with the transfer portal, you really can't say Illinois hasn't gotten a second splash. And that's true.
Yep.
To that point, we understand, and we talked a lot about that yesterday. In fact, off the air, I looked at Piper, and I'm like, do you remember about 3 or 4 years ago when all we talked about was recruiting high school kids and the Peach Jam and all of this stuff? Now we hardly even talk about that. Today, I texted you and Derek, and I'm like, who are the kids we recruited again that are signing? And I'm like, there are some, right? And it's like, well, Merez Johnson. I was like, oh, hell, that's right. It's been so long that I feel like we've had him for 2 years, so I forgot all about today. He could actually make it official. But no, to your point, Matt, there's no doubt that Brad and this staff have done a great job on the portal, and this year being no different. So there's no doubt that you'll see some things happening on that portal.
I would expect a portal splash, especially with all the guys you're losing, Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins. Like, you're going to need a splash in the portal if you want to be a contender in the Big Ten. So I think that's going to be a priority.
I agree. Cliff says even the Big Ten Network knows that Lon has a face for radio, but a potential hand modeling job is promising. Although my hands are starting to get old. Like, when you get old, you get like these spots. It stinks getting old. Like, you're just like you're just like your hands are like, eh. So no. Big Def says the 6'6" bounce back after that start would be a tremendous sell to recruits and help them re-recruit current players who may have begun to doubt the program. No doubt that's a good call there. Bill down in Troy, our buddy, says, I'm already frustrated by Mizzou recruiting better than Illinois in football. Missouri's got a good football team, man.
And some really good classes coming up, to Bill's point.
Yeah.
They're doing some really good work.
I think it's just the name of the coach, Drinkowitz. Who wouldn't want their son to go play with Eli Drinkowitz? It's like, come on. No, but he says, I'm not all prepared to have it happen in basketball. I don't understand if they can recruit a top 3 class to COMO. What am I doing? Oh, Columbia, Missouri. Sorry. That have never won anything. Why can't Illinois? Yeah. I mean, listen.
They do have a top 3 class in basketball next year somehow.
You never know with Missouri. They're just. It's been so long, it seems, since their basketball program is. I know they're on what, a 3-game winning streak. Is Brad beaten Missouri?
Brad, I think, is 2-4 against Missouri. I know Io never beat them in its 3 years.
That's crazy.
Obviously, last year's game was one of the worst I've ever watched.
They took it to you. And Benny said, "You're never too old. I'll see you Friday." We are at Pia's. That's a great point. It's another reason for me to stall, so we don't get much Cubs talk in. But
I'll allow this one.
That is true. We're at Pia's. Hans D will not be there.
Wow.
I know. It's even in the commercial, like the ad that I did for Pia's, and us being there Friday, we even said Hans D will be there, but work is getting in the way of Hans. So, and you never have been to one of our programs because you're always back here running the board.
That is true.
So we appreciate your work back here. There's no doubt to that. But we'll work on maybe some guests for Pia's, but we're going to be out there again on Friday. It's Veterans Day weekend. So we'll make sure we give a nod to all the veterans out there that have risked their lives and given everything they can for their country. We really, truly appreciate that. But we will be at Pia's, so come out and join us from 3 to 5. Usually that creeps into like 3 to 6 or so. Not on the air, but off the air. And then Diane Ducey does some DJing, so usually Fireball is the song she plays, and then for some reason we decide to then salute that song with a Fireball of her own. All right, 359-2255 if you want to weigh in on the U of I Illini Link text line. Derek Piper will hear next hour to talk some Illini recruiting. Joey Wagner at the bottom of the hour to talk Illinois women's basketball and also some recruiting on both sides with Joey Wagner. When we come back, we are talking Chicago Cubs. Craig Counsell stolen from the Milwaukee Brewers to Chicago. I want to hear Jed Hoyer talking about it, and I want to hear Kyle give his thoughts on this move that replaces David Ross kind of out of the blue and brings Craig Counsell to the friendly confines. I can't wait to hear what they have to say about it. We'll do it next. It is The Drive.
Have you ever wondered why you pay your bank to have a checking account with them? We do too. At Fisher National Bank, we offer free checking accounts that reward you to bank with us. Our Rewards Cashback Checking offers 2.02% cash back on debit card purchases up to $500 monthly. No service fees or balance requirements needed to earn rewards. For a free checking account that pays you back, simply make 12 debit card purchases, receive electronic statements, and have one direct deposit within a monthly cycle. It's so simple. We bet you're doing most of these things already. With Rewards Cashback Checking, you have access to Reward Saver, which earns 4.07 annual percentage yield on balances up to $20,000. Reward yourself with free Rewards Cashback Checking and Reward Saver, a few of the many ways Fisher National Bank invests in our customers. See monthly requirements at any branch or fishernational.com. Fisher National Bank. Exceptional communities, exceptional people. Member FDIC.
We all have a mission in life, something that drives us to explore, to grow, to love. And when we discover it, we're made whole. At OSF Healthcare, we want you to be the best you possible. We're here for you on your schedule to make your life just a little bit easier. Whatever your mission is, we're here to support it. Your life, our mission. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org/mission.
Jeremiah 29:11 states, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." What a comfort we have in this passage, as the Lord is telling Jeremiah, I care for you and will take care of you. If you are in despair and think you have no hope, pray to the Lord for guidance. See how your life can be changed and the lives of those around you. This message brought to you by the Blossom Basket Florist. When it comes to finding a reliable vehicle, look no further than Sarah Champagne, your trusted automotive destination. They carry a lineup of top brands including Honda, BMW, Subaru, GMC, and Buick. And they're not just about cars, they're about people. Their team is dedicated to providing you with trustworthy service and dependable vehicles that fit your lifestyle. Experience the difference at Serra Champagne. Visit Serra, S-E-R-R-A, champagne.com. Hey, it's Stevie J. Time for another Stever. The Stever program is where I give you my money and you keep and use the stuff. All right, today from Merle Norman. All right, Merle Norman is, unbelievably great when it comes to makeup and your skin. Marilyn will help you. Now, here's what the offer is. I'm going to give you a free color analysis, and I'll give you $100 to buy makeup from Merle Norman, made right here in America. In fact, made in Los Angeles. Marilyn is so good at what she does. So if you would like my $100 bill and a free color analysis from Merle Norman, all you have to do is go to GoStever.com, and click accept. That's all you have to do. You have to make an appointment within 7 days, and then you have to fill out my survey as to how they did, how you liked working with Marilyn. Okay, Merle Norman, our Stever offer. GoStever.com, click accept. You'll get an email later on, late afternoon or evening, if you win. Rooting for you. GoStever.com, click accept for Merle Norman.
He is 1609 West Springfield Avenue in Champaign. Join us for the live broadcast after 3 p.m. on Friday, November 10th. Great guests ahead of Dad's Day, including Jay Lehman, McLean Stahl, and Hans D. with Who You Got. Eric Meyer has great drink specials from Coors and Miller Lite, Twisted Tea, Captain Morgan, and Bullet Rye and Bourbon. Terrific pub food like the Slugger Burger, chicken fingers, loaded nachos, and fish on Fridays. Diane Ducey will be handing out tickets to the Illinois vs. Indiana game Saturday the 11th at 2:30 with the flyover as a salute to our veterans. Pia's will have a fan bus leaving a half hour before tip-off as you head to the State Farm Center and enjoy watching the Illini men's basketball team play and then get dropped off and picked up in the front circle drive off First Street. Pia Sports Bar always saying, go Illini. Win tickets to the Tuesday, November 14th, 7 p.m. game against Marquette. Pia's 1609 West Springfield Avenue in Champaign.
From computer systems to brakes and tires too, at PDR, fixing cars is what they do. Remember, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 or use their dedicated text-only line at 383-0619. Additional information including repair quotes and online scheduling requests available from the website at pdrauto.com. Remember, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Get the roof your home deserves by Roof Doctors, your residential roofing specialist that has always offered the best warranties in the industry, like our non-prorated 50-year warranty. Our customers love that we are family-owned and locally operated. We make our customer needs our top priority. With over 30 years experience and the best customer service, give Roof Doctors a call today for your free estimate at 328-7529. In your community and for your community, Roof Doctors.
It's the drive, and Lon can't talk right now because he has some candy in his mouth that he decided to put in 5 seconds before the break ended.
Chupa Chups or something that's a sucker.
Not sure I've heard of that.
I don't either. It was green. There we go. All right.
You're done?
I think I'm ready. Drive with Tay and Piper. Lon Tay, Kyle Toss. Pipes will be here in the 4 hour. Joey Wagner, 4:30. Tommy DeVito getting the start. Good call, Randy. For the Giants, I asked you, when's the last Illinois quarterback to start in the NFL? It's Kirk Kittner.
In 2003.
Illinois had a good run there with Jeff George, Tony Eason, some of those guys. And then all of a sudden, we've just had some not very good quarterbacks. I mean, even Juice was a really good college quarterback, but obviously not in the NFL. So crazy to think that Tommy DeVito may start the last, 8 games or so. Well, we're into week 10, right? So the last 6, I guess, games for the New York Giants. All right, the Chicago Cubs made news this week. How out of the blue was this compared to other out of the blue things you've encountered in sports in your life?
One of the more out of the blue things that's happened. Truly, I was shocked to see that. I was checking Twitter at some point on Monday, and I saw, forget which reporter it was, might have been John Heyman or someone, that said, like, Craig Counsell is he's going to manage next year, but it's not going to be for the Mets and it's not going to be for the Brewers. I'm like, it's going to be for a team that already has a manager.
Was it Rosenthal that broke it?
It might have been.
It doesn't matter.
It might have been. I mean, I wish I did know. I should credit the person that was reporting it. But someone came out with something saying, like, in a twist, Craig Counsell is actually going to manage with a team that already has a manager, and it's not going to be for the Mets, who people thought it was going to be, or he's not going to go back to the Brewers. And then, like, 20 minutes later, all of a sudden, the Chicago Cubs are hiring Craig Counsell. In a million years, I would have never thought that was going to happen.
I mean, the Mets hired a former Brewers guy to run the front office,
They
right?
did. They hired Stearns, who used to run the Brewers front office and had a really close relationship with Counsell.
Yeah, so you assumed.
Even during this past season, there were, like, all kinds of people saying, like, well, this offseason, just wait, Counsell's going to be with the Mets. It's pretty obvious. But then even if that didn't work out, you wouldn't have thought that he was going to get poached from the Brewers, where he's been for so long and has had a lot of success with them.
It's crazy.
The Cubs go out, though, and say, here's $8 million a year. How about you come to a big market where we'll actually spend some money and not give you one of the worst lineups in baseball every year that you have to try to win with, which he did, which is why he's regarded as one of the best managers in baseball, but really shocking stuff.
Of course, the Brewers had some pretty good lineups. They've had some pretty good rosters. I mean, they've always had the big three pitchers. Christian Yelich was an MVP candidate always.
When Yelich was playing at an MVP level, they did. The past, 3 years, they've had abysmal offenses.
They really
still
have.
won.
You're right.
They've still won.
What was Counsell making in Milwaukee? Like $2 million? What was or was it Ross making $2 million with the Cubs, and then all of a sudden it go to $8 million? I just listen, and I know a lot of Cubs fans that I've heard from have said that this signals the idea that they are going to go out and spend big money, and that even includes maybe being the favorite to land Shohei Ohtani, who is the big fish out on the market right now.
I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see there. That's almost like throw everything into one basket and go get Shohei Ohtani. But, again, I mean, when you think of the Cubs sitting in that third largest market in television, you sit there and think, okay, why don't they spend crazy? And there have been years they have, but for the most part, they've kind of kept it in check. Maybe this is the year they just say, I don't care. Maybe this is the weekend that Lon all of a sudden says, you know what? I'm going to make some major wagers here this weekend. And then Monday rolls around and you're like, wow, we had a bad season there because I didn't win anything this weekend. So we'll see. I mean, what do you think adding Craig Counsell does? What will he be better, you think, in your mind than David Ross? Because let me tell you, it wasn't that long ago when Cub fans were singing on top of the mountain how great David Ross was and how great of a manager and how big of a signing it was to have Rossi as your manager. And now here we are a few years later, and it's like, good. So what is Counsell bringing that Rossi didn't?
Well, I think my biggest issue with Ross was I just didn't think he was very good in-game at some of the handling of the pitching staff and some of the certain lineup decisions, like just the stubbornness with lineups. Like, there really wasn't a reason to be hitting Ian Happ third every game while Cody Bellinger is left on deck every single night. I mean, there was like 5 times in September where there's a late ninth inning rally and Ian Happ comes to the plate and strikes out while Cody Bellinger's got the bat on his shoulders, taking some warm-up swings. You want your best hitter getting the most at-bats. I thought there was some stubbornness there. I also just think when you look at what happened with the Cubs last year, plus 95 run differential, all kinds of analytics saying that they should have been a clear-cut playoff team, and they missed the playoffs. To me, when you see something like that happen, in my opinion, what it tells me is that there were some on-the-margins, late-game, crunch-time decisions that just weren't being maximized, and and the Cubs did lose a ton of close games last year. To me, I think some of that does fall on the manager.
Sure.
And I think, it's tougher to go back now. There were plenty of times, especially late in the year, where even on Twitter I would be very vocal about how I was disgusted with certain moves. Now I can't fully remember those right now, but I think
I remember that. I remember you complaining about that.
I just didn't think Ross was great in game, and I think Craig Counsell is just the body of work, what he's done in such a small market in Milwaukee. With he just hasn't had a ton to work with there, and he's always maximized that Brewers team. And every year you come into the season, you look up and down the Brewers roster, and it doesn't scream a team that should be running the NL Central and making postseasons every single year. And he got the most out of that roster every single year, and I think that's why people regard him as one of the top managers in baseball. And I just think it's one of those moves where. Was Ross the biggest disaster ever and needed to – I don't think that.
Okay.
I think he was fine. But when a guy like Craig Counsell – it parallels exactly what happened in 2015 with the Cubs. When Joe Maddon opted out of his contract with the Tampa Bay Rays, the Cubs had Rick Renteria, who they just brought in, and they hadn't given him a ton to work with yet. They were still kind of building up to that championship window. There was nothing really wrong with the job that he did, but Joe Maddon was available, and the Cubs said, this is a move that we think will maximize our chance to win, and we can play Jed Hoyer here in a second.
Yeah.
He kind of echoed that, where he said he had no issue with the job that Ross did, and he thinks highly of Ross, but when a guy like Craig Counsell becomes available, you just got to make the move.
Let's hear from Jed, and then I want to ask you, what do you think the Brewers fans are thinking right now? I know they can't be happy.
No, they can't.
Jed Hoyer.
I think, obviously, there's plenty of articles written about how, in a lot of ways he was one of the biggest free agents out there, given his talent. And, kind of throughout October, kind of like looking at it a little bit, like, could these searches drag out such that he was a free agent in November? I talked to Tom about it a little bit. Obviously, in this situation, given the fact that we had a very capable manager in Rossi, there was a real sensitivity towards it. So my circle was, literally as small as you could make it, just in thinking about it. But, as I thought about it towards the end of October, when it looked like that, he may be a free agent in November, it just felt like an exceptionally hard decision, but one that I felt like I had to make if the opportunity was there. I think, from my perspective, my job is to figure out how to win as many games as we possibly can in the short term and the long term. And there was nothing about this move that I didn't feel like met that criteria where, like I said, this is no knock on Rossi, who I think incredibly highly of, but I just felt like, Craig is, at the very, very top of the game. It's hard to rank managers, but certainly he's at the very, very top of the game. I've really admired, watching him from afar. It was funny. I was talking to Randy Bush, and my thought on Craig, as I've always watched him against us, was the Bum Phillips quote about Bear Bryant, where he says, he'd take his and beat yours and yours and beat his. And that's kind of how I felt sometimes watching him, that he was just getting the most out of his teams over and over and over. So, kind of a little bit of a ramble on like how do we get here, but those were my thoughts as we got into the end of October and November. Was, I feel like I have a responsibility to the city, to the fan base, to win as many games short term and long term as I can, and this felt like it just checked that box. And it was a really hard decision, and obviously some really hard conversations that went with that, but I felt like it was just the right thing to do.
There you go. That is Jed Hoyer talking about his new manager, Craig Counsell. I told you during that, I pulled up on Baseball Reference, Craig Counsell. I didn't realize he was from Milwaukee. Whitefish Bay High School in Milwaukee, played at the University of Notre Dame in college, and, of course, had a great career in the Major League Baseball. His nickname, by the way, is Chicken. Didn't know that.
What?
That's what it is. So he is in 9 years, he's won 707 games. He's winning at a .531 clip. The most wins he ever accrued was in 2018. The Brewers won 96 games on that. He's been ejected 28 times. So there's that. He averages About 3 a year, it seems like. So there you go.
A lot less than Ross averaged. He get tossed like 8 times a year.
256 challenges, 116 overturned. So 40.
We're going into the stats here.
I'm analytically breaking down Craig Counsell.
I love it.
What do you think the Brewers? I mean, if you're a Brewers fan, you got to be like, what?
They are
what
losing it.
What the hell just happened?
They're losing it.
And he goes to a rival.
No, that's a gut punch for Milwaukee, 100%. I mean, and you mentioned it. He's a Milwaukee guy, and that was like the narrative of him throughout the last couple of years, and like the way they marketed him, like he's this hometown. Look at how successful this manager we have is, and now he, out of nowhere, really. I mean, I think Milwaukee fans were prepared that there's a chance he would go to the Mets because that rumor's been going on for a while. But once that didn't happen, to then have him leave for the Cubs.
I mean, the Cubs didn't even have an opening.
They didn't, no. And it's just the fact that it came completely out of nowhere. I wouldn't blame Milwaukee fans for feeling a little betrayed.
Oh. Has David Ross spoke?
No. Whenever he does, I will be the first one to listen because it'll probably be a while, but I would be fascinated. I know someone reported that he was completely blindsided by it.
Oh, I mean, come on.
And that, it was probably some negative emotions when he was first told that, as you could expect. But,
I mean, when I first heard the news, I thought maybe they were moving Ross up into management. You know what I'm saying? Like, not as manager, but now he's going to be whatever, director of scouting or I mean, that's dumb, but something.
Some assistant in the front office.
Right, in the front office. And then to just basically say, nope, you're out. And Craig Counsell's in. That's pretty hard. Was it Corbin Burns who the Brewers offered really low in arbitration last year? Who were the?
Yes, it was Corbin Burns. Yep.
And he's got one more year in Milwaukee, and then he's a free agent. And now that Craig Counsell, I don't know his relationship with Craig.
Come on down, Corbin.
But I'm telling you what,
that
is a guy, Corbin Burns, that the Cubs and Cardinals would both eye as someone that could be a top of the rotation or at least top 2 of the rotation kind of guy that he's been with the Brewers. So interesting. It should make the Brewers-Cubs games a little bit interesting next year. That is for sure. So I don't know who Milwaukee's going to go out and get. Maybe they get Ross.
Please do.
Maybe Milwaukee's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go get David Ross, and we're going to whip your you-know-what next season.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do.
I would 100% support that move by Milwaukee. Let's just swap managers next year and see how it goes.
Now, don't be thinking that chicken's going to get you all the way to a World Series, all right?
Well, the rest of the offseason is going to be quite important to that goal. But as you kind of mentioned from the jump, I do think this is a move that signals
they're going to spend some money.
They're going to be quite aggressive when the right move presents itself, no matter how much that cost might be. Cubs are going to be involved, and I'm excited about what it signals, the fact that they're willing to pay the biggest managerial contract in baseball history to go get a guy when they already had a manager. I'm excited about what that signals, about the mindset of this front office and ownership.
Now, let me rebuttal that in the biggest way. If you were that in the signals, then the signal of not signing Cody Bellinger right now would tell me that you're the opposite, that you're not ready to spend money.
Well, what are they supposed to do? He's a Scott Boras client. They weren't going to extend him in season.
Yeah, you're
Free agency started, 2 days ago?
He would have been the first signing of the Major League Baseball. I would have been like, here's the check. What do you want?
I'm sure they're going to be involved, but I don't think the fact that they haven't signed him means anything because Scott Boras, and he's going to try to get
They didn't even try to re-sign him during the season.
He wouldn't have. There's no way that he wouldn't.
Okay.
There's just no way that was going to happen.
I didn't know if that came out or not. So, all right. Well, there you go. You've already spent too much money on a manager, so now you got to kind of watch your P's and Q's on your players.
Sure. Shohei Ohtani. Come on down.
He's not going to pitch for you, He's just hitting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take his 58 homers next year while he recovers.
Oh, my Lord. Ohtani raking in Wrigley. Are you kidding me? Wow.
He's going to the Dodgers, isn't he?
Oh, probably. Probably.
I'll take Bellinger and Soto instead.
I tell you what, I don't think I want Soto. And I was all about him coming to the Cardinals. I don't know. He didn't do hardly anything for the Pods. But
he
still
was really good last year.
He's still good. Don't get me wrong.
He wasn't as good as like his peak year
Right.
last year. He was still maybe a top 10 hitter in baseball.
He's good. All right. Derek Piper next hour. We think. There's a train.
He's not here yet.
There's a train, and he usually gets Philo they are very good at rolling a train through about 1 minute before the hour. So we notice that stuff because we see that because we're on clock time. But Piper, and we'll have Joey Wagner at 4:30. We're going to talk to both of those about all the recruiting that went on today at Illinois with the men's and women's basketball programs. We'll do all that next hour. It is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
MQ-9 Reaper drone conducting surveillance off the coast of Yemen. Last month, the U.S. warship shot down drones and missiles fired by the Houthis toward Israel.
Iran has been backing the Houthis as part of that civil war in Yemen. The U.S. has been engaged in Yemen going after al-Qaeda, but now the surveillance drones that are in the air, the MQ-9s, they most likely are watching to see if the Houthis are planning any attacks or firing any of those missiles towards Israel, because that could significantly escalate the conflict.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. The Houthis released a video of their downing of the $30 million U.S. Reaper drone. Also just getting reports of another armed drone targeting U.S. forces in the Middle East. There have been at least 40 drone and rocket attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria over the past several weeks, injuring more than 40 U.S. service members. Those attacks have continued after a retaliatory U.S. strike on 2 sites in Syria. Another Trump takes the stand in the New York civil fraud case against the Trump Organization. The former president's oldest daughter, Ivanka, answering questions about her role as a then executive securing loans for various properties.
Some transactions dating as far back as 2011, which is outside the statute of limitations. She testified she never had any role in preparing statements of financial condition. Ivanka was originally a co-defendant in the trial alongside her father and 2 brothers, but a state court removed her from the lawsuit because of the statute of limitations.
Fox's Nate Foy at State Supreme Court in Lower Manhattan. Former President Trump says there's no case in a social media post calling the state attorney general corrupt and the judge a Trump hater. America is listening to Fox News.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What's up?
I'm tired of feeling so bloated.
That used to be me. Then I got this.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion. A probiotic, right?
Yeah, it works naturally with your gut to help soothe occasional bloating and gas. Plus, it has vitamin B12 to aid digestion by helping convert food to cellular energy. 2 benefits, 1 capsule.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Learn more at alignprobiotics.com.
Why are central banks quietly amassing mountains of gold? Because they know the dollar won't last. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your IRA or 401k into physical gold with Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get a free info kit on gold by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. So text SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit now.
The White House not confirming reports of a longer pause being suggested in Israel's fight with Hamas.
Well, this is 3-way talks between Israel, the U.S., and the Qataris, and they're talking about a 3-day pause, which would involve a substantial return of the hostages. If you remember, Benjamin Netanyahu has said he's open to brief pauses, but nothing like a ceasefire unless it involved return of hostages.
Fox's Mike Tobin in southern Israel. For now, the Israeli military is focused on Hamas tunnels and ground fighting in Gaza City, but allowing brief pauses to get aid into Gaza and for Palestinian civilians to move to southern Gaza. A congressional hearing about free speech on college campuses, focusing in part on threats against Jewish students and drawing pushback from some lawmakers.
After hearing from some students about how anti-Semitic speech on campus has made them feel unsafe, California Republican Congressman Tom McClintock pushed Cornell student Amanda Silberstein about what sort of speech should not be protected. She'd earlier asked listeners to imagine being Jewish on campus.
Then imagine scrolling on your phone one day, only to discover that a fellow student wants to shoot up the kosher dining hall and I quote, gang rape all Jew pig woman on campus.
Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz said there's a tension between Jewish students worried about their free speech protections while calling out the anti-Semitic speech of others.
Is it possible to criticize George Soros without being anti-Semitic?
One witness told him it depends.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. One protester pulled out of the hearing had a sign that read pro-Palestinian does not equal anti-Semitic. Just getting word that Minnesota's Supreme Court is dismissing an insurrection clause challenge allowing former President Trump to remain on the state's 2024 primary ballot. He's facing similar challenges in other states, opponents arguing that his conduct surrounding the events of January 6th should be disqualifying. Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for you. Central Illinois, Champaign-Urbana vicinity as expected. Big warm-up for the day today. Cold front will be on the move for tonight. Temperatures behind that frontal boundary back to more seasonal levels for this point in November. After that, a steady rise on readings early next week. A big widespread, unseasonably warm air mass, perhaps record-setting across much of the core belt. Anticipated the second half of next week and into the following week. No real sign of winter time expected anytime soon. Partly sunny, windy, warm for the day today. Maybe a sprinkle in spots this morning and a spray shower late this afternoon. 77 for the high, maybe even 80 south of Champaign County. South wind 15 to 25 and gusty. A couple of showers before midnight tonight. We'll bottom out at 48. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, breezy, much cooler. The high at about 56 degrees. 37 tomorrow night. Weekend forecast, sunshine for the day. Friday at 55. Right around the 55 degree mark Saturday and Sunday, up near 60 by Tuesday and into the 60s next Wednesday and Thursday. For TVJ Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
Let's go. Hour 2, it is The Drive with Tay and Piper. I'm Lon Tay, Kyle Tosk in the house. We thought maybe the train was holding up Piper, but we don't see him whipping around the corner.
I think it was Brad Underwood who was holding him
Brad
up.
Underwood's doing it. Thanks, Coach. Thanks a lot, Coach. You're giving Kyle more airtime. So maybe Kyle and Brad have something. I don't know. Maybe you exchange some cash with him? I'm guessing he doesn't need your money.
No, he does not. And also, if I did, I would not admit as much in today's day and age of college basketball.
Can you give Coach money?
Let's not test it.
Okay, let's don't test that. Was that Pipes right there? I see a white car coming around the corner.
I believe that is him. So
all right.
We might get some recruiting thoughts.
We're going to get some recruiting
moment.
thoughts. Here's what we're going to do, because Derek's going to come in and we'll talk some football. Some basketball recruiting. And Joey Wagner is coming on at 4:30 to talk some Illini women's basketball and recruiting. So while we do this, as we're waiting for Pipes to come in, let's get a little Brett Bielema getting you ready for Illinois and Indiana this Saturday at 11 a.m. Here's some of Coach B from his press conference earlier this week.
From a couple update standpoints, just literally met with JB, our trainer, and Reggie will practice tomorrow, full go. I think our thought is to let him go Tuesday. He was kind of on the back end of last week and didn't respond as well. That's why we didn't take him on a trip. So Reggie will be full go tomorrow to kind of see how he responds on Wednesday. But the idea and anticipation would be for him to be back with us. Keith Randolph really handled the game pretty well, but I would say that I don't think it was 100% Keith. So we're going to kind of back off him a little bit this week, but fully intend for him to be back with us. Our thoughts will be with Aiden tomorrow. Aiden Lawfrey will have surgery tomorrow morning and start his road to recovery as it goes. And then Luke, basically at the end of the game there, took a shot that, prohibited him from moving forward. But I do expect him to bounce back this week and have him be involved with the game on Saturday. If not, obviously John would be our guy. But right now, every indication is that we'll be able to go down that road. I give a lot of credit to our coaches. I just specifically said Thursday after practice on the field about how we're 8 games into this, right? You have all this film to watch, all this film to prepare on. But the greatest players I've ever been around are the guys that are put in situations that they weren't accounted for or weren't ready are expecting them to happen. I literally said to the group, there's going to be somebody on this field right now that has no idea they're going to impact our game. I didn't know it was going to be our second-string quarterback on 4th and 11 with less than a minute to go and no timeouts. So give John Paddock a tremendous amount of credit. But I also think he has a rapport with our players. The way Isaiah Williams responded to him immediately, especially on that last play, but also the 4th and 11 play was a play that they had, I think, connected on, not just in that moment, but during the course of the year, just mutual respect for one another. I really like the way our defense responded in the second half. The numbers were really staggering in the first half. It was kind of a unusual first half, but the way it played out to go in that locker room 17-14, told the guys at halftime, let's not come back in here without a W, and obviously a lot of good things to make that happen. So, I thought it was interesting, right? Like Luke in the first half was 15 of 19, but I looked at it from a statistical standpoint, right? So since the Penn State game, he's completed 66% of his passes. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards, over 220 a game, 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, right? And I like the fact that we're playing better football down the stretch. I obviously wish we had played better in some of those earlier games, but I like the direction this team takes. I like the work ethic. I like their attitude. I think we'll see more of the same. See a lot of guys up there this morning, obviously in the building already on a player's day off. So I'm excited for the week to see where we can go. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Coach Aaron Henry said that Johnny Newton may be the most impactful interior defensive lineman that he's ever coached or been around. Where does he stack up as far as the guys that you've seen?
Yeah, ironically, I was coming in on Sunday morning and Terrence Jamison, our D-line coach, was parked right next to me. He came in at the same time, and I said, hey, we obviously have 4 guaranteed games left with Johnny, and I think as a coach, one of the great things that I had from advice from Coach Alvarez my first year as a head coach was coaching Joe Thomas and Paul Chris and him. We were sitting together, and they said, hey, this is, Joe might be a generational player, and I really didn't even know what that meant. That was a big term for me. And they said, you may never have another left tackle that plays the game as well as Joe Thomas. And so I've always kind of had that term. I've been around some great ones, some first-round draft picks, and for me, at the defensive line, at the interior defensive tackle position in college is by far the best player I've been around, and it's a point last year where I knew he was a really good player, right? And when Johnny decided to come back, he wanted to come back with the idea that he was going to play as good as he possibly could and then put a 1 on his back, right, for on draft day. And everything I've witnessed to this point has reassured me it's even better than it was a year ago. I think classic play on Saturday, obviously the third down, and that's a 4-point play, right? So that sack was a big sack, but it prohibited 4 points from going on the board, and you see the effect that it had on the game in the end, right?
There you go. Brett Bielema. We'll hear more fresh Brett Bielema tomorrow in terms of getting ready for Indiana. Again, a home game. Big Ten tailgate will be there, so they'll be recording live, I guess, from the tailgates. That'll be fun for Illinois fans if you're out there bright and early. Derek Piper, Illinois, Indiana, 11 a.m. Saturday. Today, though, the basketball team getting to work. You heard from a lot of coaches today.
Quite a few.
Who all was on the docket?
So we had Brad Underwood, Shauna Green, Dan Hartleb, Tyra Perry, Janet Rayfield, Chris Thomas.
Wow.
We also did men's gymnastics.
Okay. Janet Rayfield still coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, she's done it for a long time here at
Illinois. I think she's still second on the all-time goals list at UNC behind Mia Hamm.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? I love Coach Rayfield. She's great. All right, so we did our best, Kyle and I, in the first hour to kind of break down Merez Johnson and the rest of that class. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it a lot better. So when we come back, let's have Derek Piper break down what for Brad Underwood is the 5th top 20 recruiting class in his 7 years here at Illinois. You said Chris Thomas has been here 7 years, Brad Underwood 7 years. It flies by.
Crazy, isn't it?
It just doesn't seem like that. It really doesn't. But we've got Pipes in the house. We'll hear from Joey Wagner coming up a little bit later on the women's side. Also get his thoughts on the men's side as well. But Derek Piper breaking down this Illini recruiting class, including the stud Merez Johnson. We'll hear more from Pipes when we return. It is The Drive.
Accumulation, preservation, generation. At Busey Bank, these are the principles we use to build meaningful financial partnerships with our clients and their families. With sound advice and vast resources, partner with Busey for a personalized approach to your legacy. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini, member FDIC.
Kelsey Furniture in downtown Tuscola sells Tempur-Pedic beds. What's it like?
I'm going to tell you right now, Stevie, that thing is the best thing I've ever slept on in my life. My wife and I both have said we've never had better night's sleep. And the people at Kelsey's were fantastic. Brian is the guy that helped us. You know, as much as I did my research, he has a world of knowledge about beds themselves. Oh, man, it's like sleeping on a cloud, man.
Kelsey Furniture, downtown Tuscola.
You moved into your new home using 2 men in a truck. The garage was clean. Then,
I love the new recliner. What are we going to do with this old one?
Put it in the garage for now.
over time, this cycle continued.
Garage for now, put it in the garage for now, put it in the garage for now, put it in the garage for now.
It happens. You got junk. Call 2 Men in a Truck to get rid of all your junk. Residential or commercial, 2 Men in a Truck has a solution for your junk removal. Contact them at 2menchampagne.com.
2 Men in a Truck.
Everybody needs insurance, and that's why I love Kyle Lewis at Insurance Providers Group. This is Jay Lehman, All-American linebacker. Kyle provides auto, life, health, and all kinds of commercial lines of insurance. They are my one-stop shop for all my insurance needs, and all my rental properties are insured by IPG. That's why you need to email Kyle at IPGINS.com. Kyle at IPGINS.com.
If you need a new business sign or signage for your golf outing, we can do it and help you get noticed. Hi, this is Kirk Lehman, owner of Aftershock Decals and Design, and we can produce any kind of signage you want with our graphic design team. You want a custom design? We are here for you, and we are easy to work with, I promise. So visit us at AftershockDD.com to get a quote and get noticed. That's AftershockDD.com. Get noticed.
Join us for the live broadcast after 3 p.m. on Friday, November 10th. Great guests ahead of Dad's Day, including Jay Lehman, McLean Stahl, and Hans D. with Who You Got. Eric Meyer has great drink specials, terrific pub food like the Slugger Burger, chicken fingers, loaded nachos, and fish on Fridays. Diane Ducey will be handing out tickets to the Illinois vs. Indiana game Saturday the 11th at 2:30 with the flyover as a salute to our veterans. He is 1609 West Springfield Avenue in Champaign.
Saturday, November 18th for one night only at the Virginia Theater. Come out to the red carpet world movie premiere of the family-friendly comedy Irresponsible, starring Keith Campton. Parts of the movie filmed right here in our town and features dozens of local actors. Come and meet all the stars of the movie and ask questions, get pictures, and free autographs. Doors open at 6 p.m., showtime at 7. Virginia Theater, November 18th. For more information, go to thevirginia.org, thevirginia.org. Have you heard rare, exotic Tibetan yak meat is now available locally? Savannah Ridge Farms, operating in Indianola, Illinois, has been expanding their yak herd in central Illinois for nearly 2 years, offering local farm-to-table meat containing absolutely no antibiotics, hormones, or steroids. Savannah Ridge Farms raises free-range yaks, fed organic grass and hay in chemical-free open land. They are humanely raised and harvested locally. Yak meat is one of the best sources of protein and is nearly 100% fat-free. So if you want healthy, nutrient-dense, vitamin-packed red meat without the worry of how it got to your plate, visit SavannahRidgeFarms.com and check out their Facebook page. They deliver to Champaign and Vermilion counties, and you can even pick it up at their farm. And look for Savannah Ridge Farms every Saturday at the Farmers Market inside Lincoln Square, Saturdays from 8 to 11. It's SavannahRidgeFarms.com.
It is The Drive, ESPN Radio 93.5. Latte, Derek Piper's in the house. And, of course, Kyle Tosk, who helps fill in and always does an admirable job. With that, we appreciate it. Pipes hasn't been here 2 minutes, and the U of I Line text line is already firing in questions about Jeremiah Fears, which we'll get to here in a second.
Can you read the one from 358?
Oh, yes. We missed this, and this is classic. This was on the U of I Atlanta Lake text line. Quote, all you guys do is talk Cubs all day, every day. Isn't this a Cardinals affiliate? Signed Pipes. How did we miss that, Kyle?
Oh, that was a terrible miss by us.
It's all right.
We did get some Cubs out of the way.
I was driving over. I enjoyed the conversation about Craig Counsell. And
despite Lon's best efforts, we actually talked about it.
You couldn't imagine in the first segment I was breaking down.
He was breaking down his ability to crack an egg in the tailgate lot.
Yes. I had everything working to just delay any kind of conversation on the Chicago Cubs. Hey, we're going to have Joey Wagner, bottom of the hour, maybe closer to 4:35, 4:40. I'm going to text Wags here in a minute, see if that's cool with him. He's been busy all day as well, covering a lot of that, so we'll get his thoughts on it. But Derek, Morez Johnson is the guy that headlines this top 35, I think, guy. According to 24/7 Sports, your service, Illinois, is 17th ranked class in the country. I'm going to start with the negative and then go from there and let you kind of talk about each one of these players.
Okay.
You said it the other day, or maybe last week, in terms of a second splash, with the idea that you had Morez Johnson for 2 years, and you've got a top 30 guy. And it's hard to argue when you get top 20 classes every year under Brad Underwood, 5 out of 7 now. But they never, and who knows, Jace Butler could end up being really good. Jason Jackson could end up being exactly what they need on the inside, if I'm saying his name right. But did it surprise you a little bit as well? And if Fears does reclassify and come, is he the splash?
He could be the splash if that were to happen. There's no doubt. You look at him in 2025, he's a top 50 guard in that class. So I would consider that a splash if you were to do that. We can talk a little bit more about kind of where things stand with Jeremiah as we push forward. But just in general, I don't know that I'm necessarily shocked that it didn't happen. I think that'll be something that will be used against Brad Underwood and his staff. That's something that a bone to pick the fans will have if, say, Jace Butler doesn't pan out at Illinois. Right. Jason Jackson looks to be a reach, and his body doesn't ever develop as you would have hoped for him to reach into some of his upside with his skill as a 6'10 guy that can move and shoot the ball pretty well. You'll say, okay, you had Morez Johnson 2 years early in terms of his commitment. That's a guy you should be able to build around, and maybe you go out there and covet another big-time get, potentially. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I know what certain guys are and how they're going to play out. We've seen it a number of different ways. Obviously, when you get the chances are when you get a top 50 guy or whatnot, which are hard to get. They're hard to get, and Brad went through his tenure has gotten more of those than Bruce Weber did, more of those than John Gross did, probably just as many as if not, I would say more than both of them combined, really. But those guys usually hit more often than not. But we've seen it. Sky Clark came in with a lot of accolades, didn't play very well, then he left.
Good point.
Jaden Epps is ranked in the top 100, got him for a year, and then he left. So it doesn't always just boil down to where they're ranked. Brad will tell you he doesn't care at all about that. So for me personally, I know a guy like one thing that I think that sticks out to me is we know this roster needs shooting. And it still does after these additions. And yes, you can go to the portal, and they've done that well. They've been able to go out and add some guys that bring experience. And obviously Terrence was a phenomenal add to get 2 years out of him. We're hoping and thinking that Marcus Damas is going to be a really nice addition. And you're going to have a chance to go in the portal again to make some big splashes.
Jaden Schutt's coming next year. I'm just saying it right now.
You've been peddling that one. If he doesn't play very much for Duke this year,
I agree.
He should probably look.
I'm on the shoot watch
to go somewhere. That would be a hell of a call by you. We'll have the receipts and everything. Oh, you've been saying this for a long time. But Cole Serta, for him to go to Notre Dame, I don't think it was for a lack of effort by Illinois, especially once they decided they were really going after him. But he right now is a top 100 wing that shoots the heck out of it. You also look at Noyes Andrusaitis, who's going to Iowa State, and one that Illinois was dabbling with for quite a while. Ultimately, he had a rough summer 2 years ago, and Illinois kind of backed off a little bit, and ultimately, he goes somewhere else. And he's had his moments. Like, I don't think he's the knockdown shooter that Serta is, but he's 6'5". He can score it. So I think those are ones that down the road could be like, oh man, I wish we would have got him. That's a long-winded answer too. I'm not too concerned about it, but I think when you take developmental pieces or under the radar pieces, which Jax is a developmental, Jace Butler definitely under the radar.
Yep.
When you look at, he's like an unranked 3-star or whatnot outside of the top 150. If they don't pan out, then one of the criticism points against Brad and them will be, hey, you probably should have got another guy next to Merez, just knowing how much of an early head start you had on that.
What does it say about Merez Johnson that as a sophomore he says I'm committed, and now as a senior commits?
It was cool. I'm glad for my job as it relates. I've covered some recruitments where there is maybe a little bit of an earlier commitment, and then you're on wait for this to hit the fan type of watch,
exactly.
Where things get weird and it's, oh, well, there's buzz that this team's messing around here, like Jeremiah Tillman.
It'd be easier if we could just curse.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I try to navigate that.
Because I always say it's a blank show.
Yep.
I mean, everybody knows what I'm saying,
yeah.
and everybody knows what you just said.
We're an ESPN affiliate, and they got Pat McAfee now, who he's done his fair share of.
I'll send Stevie an email and say, is it okay if starting tomorrow we just go for broke?
Yeah.
Until the FCC comes in and says that's it.
Yeah, let's kind of challenge them.
Just tear it down.
Like Kansas challenged the NCAA. Like, are you really gonna do anything about it?
We'll bring in stripper poles in the studio and like have Snoop here with his green hat. Yeah, let's go. I mean, that would be awesome.
Balls to the
Okay,
wall.
I interrupted you.
But yeah, like the Jeremiah Tillman recruitment, I remember that very fondly. I guess it was fun to cover. Illinois fans don't remember it necessarily fondly in hindsight, but the twists and turns of that. You had him committed, and then, all right, now Missouri's messing with him. Kansas is messing with him. Adam Miller, when he commits but doesn't sign, and then it's like, all right, well, he just met with Juwan yesterday, and you had all that kind of stuff. So for it to be a drama-free recruitment for Merez, especially for a guy that high profile and a guy that's gotten a lot better offensively within the last year, he has a legit case to say, hey, I should be a 5-star talent. I should, he just got invited to last month the USA basketball junior national team mini camp. So he's nationally considered as one of the best big men out there. I think it helps Illinois. I was thinking back on this today. When he committed, Illinois was coming off of being a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They had Io and Kofi. Io then goes to the NBA. And these are all things that Illinois as a program had not had in so long. An NBA draft pick, a 1 seed, a great national stage type of year. Then so Merez commits. The following year, Illinois wins the Big Ten. Kofi's an All-American at Merez's position.
Yep.
And so there really wasn't, I think it's easy to say, just kind of based on what Illinois has gone through in the past, is like, man, it's surprising that no big fish came in and tried to swallow Illinois whole and take over this recruitment. Well, it was harder to do that based on kind of what the program had done.
Yep.
And I think another added dynamic too now is, not that this was ever a part of it, because really it seemed like Merez has been wanting to be here. He mentioned very early on that, the idea of playing closer to home, having his family at games, that all mattered to him. The relationship with Tim Anderson, who's got a deep, deep connection to Mean Streets, and that is paid off with Ty. It's paid off with Merez as well. But another thing in terms of like flipping some stuff late with NIL, there used to be, you could probably count on, well, I don't know, it just depends. Count on a hand or two some programs that might jump in and drop a big bag late. Like, let's just call it like it is.
Right.
And Illinois has been on the wrong side of that at times. With NIL, it's different. I mean, you're a home state guy. Your marketability is going to be as good as better than anywhere, really, if you go to Illinois and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think Illinois is in a position where, let's say Kansas wanted him or whoever it was. Maybe Memphis was willing to do something different than Illinois was 5 years ago. They're going to try to be like, all right, we're going to mess around in the gray area and try to really muck this recruitment up. And I said muck on that, not something else, even though Lon said balls to the wall.
Yeah, that started tomorrow, Pipes, not today.
Yeah. So that, again, that's kind of where it went. But I'm sure the staff very much appreciates Merez's loyalty, and then it's just to finally be at the stage where he's signed, they can actually talk to him. They're actually only a year away from him being in uniform now. That's all good.
We've seen the Hamlins, saw him with Eastern. We've seen the Liebs.
Yep.
We've seen, here's where I'm going. We've seen kind of the projections that have never really amounted to much, although I do give Lieb a little credit. Was that a couple of years ago he kind of stepped in and had some decent minutes? Or was that last year?
He had a game against Minnesota. Was that last year? I think it was last year.
Yeah, that he played pretty well in. So I'll give him his due there. But we've seen these projections. What could be different about Jaxtis?
Yeah, I'll even add in, Greggy Boyd-Badine, Matisse Facile, Anthony Higgs at one point. So there are examples in there. I will say, like on the front end, it's not just me who's telling you, and obviously I have my own thoughts on recruits, or obviously any time a staff is going to talk about a recruit that they get, anybody around the country is going to say this guy is awesome and everything. But our national people, after Jason was not ranked, saw him in July. Eric Bossy, a national guy for us, saw him, liked him a lot. I mean, he's 110. He's just outside of the top 100. He's actually ranked higher than Coleman Hawkins was coming out of high school.
Wow.
So that kind of just gives you a snapshot of just the fact that he's appreciated a little bit more in terms of, Brandon Lieb was a guy that didn't have a whole lot of offers until he had already played through his senior year. He was kind of late figuring things out. COVID hit, and then that left up some opportunities for him. But in terms of his skill set, like, he's more athletic than Brandon Lieb. He's more of a fluid athlete. He's more skilled. He can handle the ball. He can pass on the perimeter. They see offensively he does some things like Coleman does.
Okay.
Like, he can stretch the floor. You can put him in his hands at the top of the key and have him dribble into a handoff to a guard, play pick and pop, see a cutter and be able to hit that on a roll. And they feel like that Jason's a better shooter than Coleman was coming out of high school. He's just very thin. Like, he's going to take longer to develop physically. And I think he gives off like a Wisconsin big man vibe a little bit.
I like it.
Because he's someone that's going to take some time. He is skilled because usually a lot of those Wisconsin bigs have been, Frank Kaminsky can step out and shoot it. John Lure was very, very skilled. Ethan Happ had as good a footwork as you see in the Big Ten. And I'm not saying that Jackson is going to be one of those guys, but I do think that just kind of a longer term play, a guy that is super excited about staying home. His dad's from Champaign, so
he grew up a huge Illini fan.
Yeah.
Dad played at Illinois Wesleyan, but
that's right.
Yeah, but Jason grew up a big Illini fan, which is kind of cool. I mean, it means nothing to it, but
it's important
kind of cool
to have someone bought in on the process.
Amen.
Which I never questioned that with Brandon Lieb. He just never.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There was an expiration date on.
Good call.
Is it going to pan out? Is his body going to get there? And there's no guarantee that Jason does. I just personally, and the rankings say it too, like Jason quite a bit more than Brandon coming out of high school.
So I get all of that. Like an Illini kid, number 4 in the state in terms of recruiting. Jace Butler is really an outlier.
Yes.
Somebody out of California that you didn't hear, unless I'm wrong, didn't hear a lot about. Then all of a sudden you start hearing about him. Big body guy, 6'5", 190. Keep in mind, Jason is 6'10", 200, and Jace Butler's 6'5", 190. So this is a big-bodied guard and someone that teams out west wanted, but not the UCLAs, not the kind of schools that you'd normally think you were battling against.
Right.
But yet Illinois, Chester Frazier saw something with this kid and the rest of the staff. He's just kind of this outlier. Like, there haven't been many recruits like him, I don't think.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
No, for sure. Especially, Brad Underwood, since they've been here, have gotten in a lot of high profile, high major against high major type of battles. And there's been a select few. You get guys that, like a Jaxtis or some of these like late in the process, let's take a flyer types, which are less common now. You don't have to do that as much with the portal.
Amen.
Because you're not just like, oh, well, we got a scholarship to fill. Let's go take another high school kid. Then, obviously you go to the portal and see what you can do. But I would say that Alan Griffin's one of those.
Yeah.
In terms of, he was
That's a good point.
3-star guy, didn't have a lot of offers. Then and it kind of reminds me a little bit of that because of this too. After Illinois pushes for him, gets his commitment, and it seemed like for Allen it was after he committed. He committed, and then Syracuse was like, whoa.
Did we miss something?
Yeah, so they were actually trying to flip it late,
right?
And they didn't. Illinois with Jace Butler, they put themselves in a position where they're battling, like you said. I mean, they're battling UC Santa Barbara. They're battling New Mexico. Colorado State was in it. I think that they might have dropped out at some point. And then it's trending Illinois' way, and Stanford's like, hey, you just visited Illinois. I know you're going to announce in like a week, but you want to come to Stanford and check us out?
Yeah.
And Stanford's not USC. They're not Oregon. They're not UCLA. But the long story on it is I think that it was probably pretty refreshing for a guy like Chester Frazier. It was like a throwback for Chester Frazier where he's at Kansas State and you're recruiting somebody. You're like, instead of outworking and out battling in a high major versus high major, you feel like you're out maybe outworking them or out identifying them in a different way.
That's a good way to put it.
It's like a diamond in the rough type guy, seeing something that other people haven't seen, and they think they have that with Jace Butler, who didn't have any other high major offers other than Stanford trying to come in late. And he is a big body guard, 6'4". We've seen some of those in recent, they're not really recent years anymore, Lon. When I say that, then you're like, oh, wait, no, we're older than we think.
You mean when I was 45?
Like Dimitri McCamey,
right?
And, Darren Williams. Those aren't recent at all, Pipes.
Early 40s.
Yeah, during my lifetime when Kyle was a baby is what I mean. But yeah, I think that the way he pairs well with Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn. Gibbs-Lawhorn more of a quick twitch, explosive athlete, wired to score. And the other side of that coin with Jace is he's not as athletic. He's not going to wow you with his speed, with his quickness. He's more crafty. He's going to use his craftiness and his strength.
Darren,
similar. I think he plays like he's not this guy. He plays like Jalen Brunson.
Got it.
Because he's just he's really high IQ, craftiness, a number of different ways, just like little subtle things in terms of his body positioning.
I like it.
The way he sets up his pull-up jumper. They're lefties, obviously, too. I like him. I admittedly haven't got a chance to see him a ton in person.
Right.
Really at all in person, but I've watched a lot of his game film, and I understand what they see in him. They think he's a steal, and I could totally see it. One final note on this. I know we got to catch a break to get Joey Wagner on. But Braden Smith, who we're all familiar with now at Purdue, the point guard, and he was a 3-star. I believe he didn't have any other under-recruited, out of the top 150 3-star guy. I remember going to Big Ten Media Days and Matt Painter talking about, hey, nobody's discussed, everybody's like, all right, point guard, is it Brandon Newman, blah, blah, blah. He's like, people outside of my program don't know who this is, but Braden Smith is a really good player, and we got him, and we expect him to do good things. I would not be surprised if Brad Underwood is in that same seat at a Big Ten Media Days and said, hey, I know everybody else who's not covering Illinois. You cover Ohio State, you cover Michigan, you cover Indiana. You don't have any idea who the heck Jace Butler is. He's a 3-star, but he's going to be good for us this year. Braden Smith was all freshman team in the Big Ten. And as Brad said today, Jace has a Big Ten ready body. They expect him to be a factor early.
I'm watching. They've got something right now on YouTube called Jace Butler Commitment Day, and he's got that Illinois shirt on. So I'll have to catch that at a later time for sure to hear what he has to say there. Let's catch a break. When we come down, great breakdown, by the way, Pipes. When we come back, Joey Wagner, we'll talk about the Illini women, picked up their opening win of the season. They're 1-0. Genesis Bryant with 32, including 10 of 11 inside the arc. That's good. And then, of course, get a top 20 recruit today for Shauna Shauna Green. It's just incredible what that
Spring
program.
Green, man.
Yeah, Spring Green, baby. That's exactly right. So when we come back, we'll hear from Joey Wagner, Illini Inquirer. We'll do it next. It is The Drive.
Crossroads Contractor Supply specializes in the delivery of tools and supplies within a 150-mile radius of Champaign-Urbana. Reliable, timely, and with reasonable prices, Crossroads Contractor Supply knows what equipment and tools are needed for your job. Their slogan, we have it when you need it. Get the job done right with proper tools and equipment. Did something break? Construction materials as well as safety equipment, all available. Call 402-8123. Visit CrossroadsContractorSupplyIL.com.
Hi, it's Stevie J. So I took my mom into Audibel, owned by Jeff Hanley, who owns 13 locations around central Illinois. She's had so much trouble hearing for so long. Audibel, AUDIBEL, for hearing. And some of the new technologies, they've got AI now for some of these hearing aids, and they're virtually invisible. It's unbelievable, and it helped my mom. It helped her incredibly. We've been to other places. This is by far the best place I've ever been in for hearing help. Go to audibelteam.com. That's AUDIBEL. If you want more information about Audibel and how Jeff Hanley and his amazing culture and amazing team that they have, go to audibelteam.com. That's AUDIBEL, audibelteam.com. You'll be so happy you found Audibel. Amazing work. They got a location in Champaign. Go to audibelteam.com. That's audibelteam.com.
Local, personal, trusted. Hi, this is Ata Durakan with First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana, and we've been serving Champaign County since 1908. Our institution is safe, strong, and stable. We operate on a foundation of responsible and sound practices, and you can rest easy knowing we're your bank. Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial Inc., fast, friendly, and local, with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try, and we think you'll love it here. First Federal Savings Bank, 356bank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS 435120.
Hi, I'm Tyler Weaver, president of Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery. It's time to come home to Carpet Weavers. We don't want you to just like your new floors. We want you to love them. From waterproof floors and carpet to furnitures and design advice, we've got a team of experts on your side. We'll get you the best price and the best quality products. And complete your home with furniture and accessories. Buy it all with free financing too. Come home to Carpet Weavers, where floors, furniture, and family meet.
Jeremiah 29:11 states, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." What a comfort we have in this passage, as the Lord is telling Jeremiah, I care for you and will take care of you. If you are in despair and think you have no hope, pray to the Lord for guidance. See how your life can be changed and the lives of those around you. This message brought to you by the Blossom Basket Florist.
Fighting Illini football is back in Memorial Stadium for Dad's Day and Military Appreciation Day, Saturday, November 11th, as they take on the Indiana Hoosiers. Get tickets for as low as $20 as we celebrate dads for this proud Illinois tradition. All active military personnel are eligible to receive free tickets. Be in your seat early for a special military flyover. Illinois football versus Indiana, Saturday, November 11th. Get tickets and more info at fightingillini.com.
Are you tired of getting the short end of the stick and always being stuck with cold water for your showers? Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing is here to help. With current tax incentives and rebates, you can save up to $900 on a high-efficiency tankless water heater, unlimited hot water, and saving on your energy bills. It seems like the best gift you could give your home. With the current promotion of 0% financing for qualified applicants, you can't afford not to call. 217-841-4728. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
This is Rob Meyer with Provident Financial Group. Unfortunately, there is not a one-size-fits-all retirement plan. Finding the right plan for you depends on many factors. The good news is that we can help improve your retirement readiness, whatever your situation. Contact us today at 217-366-3456 or online at providentfinancialgroupllc.com.
Securities and advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA, SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
By now, you've all heard the expression, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 for PDR Automotive. They are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR. But who are they? They, the PDR staff, understand that a name is only as good as the people that represent it. The PDR staff has more than 335 years of combined automotive experience, several employees now on staff for more than 25 years. PDR, more than just a name. Family owned and operated, now celebrating over 50 years in business.
All right, it is The Drive, ESPN Radio 93.5. Lonte, Derek Piper, Kyle Tosk. We talked Cubs today just for Kyle, so it's been a good day for Kyle. He's gotten to talk quite a bit because Pipes wasn't here, and then we got to talk Cubs. And now we're going to join on the Tapman's Towing phone line, Illini Inquirer, splendid writer, Joey Wagner. What's up, my friend?
Juan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, man. You just spent a lot of your day with Derek Piper and hearing about seven.
Yeah, that was not ideal, spending all that time.
Hey, man.
I tried, Derek, you made it.
Oh!
Tried to avoid.
It's mean.
No, it was good. It was always good to see Piper.
I forgot to tell you he was sitting here. That was my fault.
Tough look.
All right. How did Shauna Green, first of all, we went through the how is this happening last year with everything that went on. But then today to nail down a top 20 recruit in the country, how is Shauna Green and this staff, how are they doing this?
Well, winning helps.
Sure.
She'll tell you that. She said that winning, having the first season that they did in Champaign, and being in the Power 5, right? It's just those things, maybe not specifically to Barry Wallace, the 5-star wing that they signed, but those things help when you're out on the recruiting trail. And now you've got, that first class, it was, hey, we've done this at Dayton, or we plan to do this. But now that you've got that to sell, it really goes a long way. But Barry Wallace is really relationship-driven. Shauna Green has known that family since, she was in Akron for all that time.
Nice.
And really got to know the footprint of Ohio basketball. Barry's from Pickerington Central. That helps. Like, to have that familiarity. She recruited Barry's older sister. And to be quite honest, when she got this commitment back in the summer, Barry Wallace was a very good prospect when she got her. But then she, I know Brad Underwood talked about today, you want to get players who are on the rise. If you put a stock in rankings, which we do, and the coaches say they don't, but Barry Wallace continued to climb, continued to elevate, and ended up being the number 20. As of right now, the number 20 ranked player in the country and a 5-star recruit, and that's a huge get. It's a huge, huge get for Shauna Green and her coaching staff as they continue to stock talent, to try to build on that season, to advance deeper in the tournament, all those things.
And it seems like, obviously, Barry Wallace, not obviously, maybe people don't know this, but she's 6'1", and then you're talking about Haven Smith from Lincoln Way East here in Illinois, 6'6". And I know, Joey, after reading a lot of your articles last year, it was obvious that Kendall Bostic needed help underneath. That was kind of the one wart, if you would, on the team, is when Bostic would get in foul trouble or on the bench, there wasn't a lot of depth, and of course they addressed that with the portal. But when you're bringing in a 6'1" and a 6'6" in the same class, you're looking at some big.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. But with Barry Wallace, she can play the 4 as needed. She can. Illinois has got some talent there, right, with Brent Shoup-Hill and Shea Boland. But to be able to add another possibility in there, you want options as a coach. You want options. She can play the 3, play on that wing. And Haven Smith's a center. And Kendall Bostic will have another year after this season. Camille Hobby will not. So Haven Smith at 6'6" is going to have an opportunity to come in there, and we'll see what happens. It's hard to project out for freshmen to come in, but yeah, to go get that size, to kind of have your next 5, whether that means you play a lot as a freshman or you really see that uptick as a sophomore, junior, senior, it's a big deal. And Haven Smith, guys, is a player who's gotten better as her high school career has gone on. And Shauna Green, said, paraphrasing a little bit, hey, she wasn't recruited as heavily as some other players. And she said, you just keep watching her and you just really, really, really like what you see out of her. And her high school coach will tell you she's taken big jumps over the course of, last offseason, this offseason. And that's what you want. You want to try to find a player kind of moving up there and finding themselves in 6'6". I mean, that matters. And
yeah.
As Shauna Green said today, if you've got all of those things early and you're 6'6", you're ranked like number 1 or number 2 in the country because there's just not a lot of 6'6" players. But to get her and really like and trust her evaluations on what they saw, that was, it looks to be a pretty good find for them.
Joey Wagner is our guest on the Tapman's Towing phone line. He is, of course, with Illini Inquirer, and I just learned today he doesn't like me. So
yeah, that was
Joey's going to have
breaking
to
news.
buy me a whiskey diet on the road for our next road trip to smooth it over.
Yeah, I didn't plan to do that, so that's tough to hear.
I think that's only fair. So on the note of big picture, Joey, it's hard not to go here. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, like, for Shauna Green to be on the job for a year and a half, to have turned a largely irrelevant program into an NCAA tournament team within that time span. Oh, by the way, get a 5-star recruit. Also go to the transfer portal and get someone like Camille Hobby. This past offseason, obviously, Micaiah Cook and Genesis Bryant, very important of building what was a tournament team last year. Just how would you explain it as someone that's followed this team closely, just what Shauna's doing and just what momentum maybe can mean, obviously, in terms of making this happen today, but beyond this?
Yeah, momentum really matters. You see it in every sport. And, we talk, Derek, you and I are in group chat, and we talked about college basketball as a whole. And when momentum goes, it's so obvious. Mm-hmm. It's so painfully obvious. And sometimes the building of momentum isn't as obvious. And, Shauna Green, it certainly was, right? You get to the NCAA tournament, you get a 5-star. One, they know what they're doing. She put a really good coaching staff together. You've seen that. The transition early with Ryan Gensler going to take the head coaching job at Akron. You go out and you get Brittany Anderson, who's incredibly well thought of, and pull her away from Stanford and get her in this role. So, it tells you what people think of Shauna Green, what they think of Calamity McIntyre, Kat Beasley, Brittany Anderson, their message, the way their past successes. All that plays into. They're very real. They're very, very real in their approach, and they set their expectations, I think, fairly when they're talking to us or they're talking to players or just broadly talking about basketball, and that resonates. And I think, Barry Wallace is a really good example of that because her dad has known Shauna Green forever, and he knows this is the real, what they say is what you're going to get. And I think as that message starts getting out a little bit more, whether it be Haven Smith in the state or Barry Wallace and kind of all of the connections she has, and basketball, high school basketball, high-level players, it's not, they know everybody. So as that word starts to trickle out a little bit, you're starting to see this happen. And then you go out and you win 20 games. You take this program that wasn't very well thought of at all prior to Shauna Green's arrival, and you take it to the NCAA tournament, and you kind of had these moments. Now you got to build on it. You got to keep going and go further. And obviously that began last night, but just kind of a steady crescendo of a lot of different things factoring in, and the results. The results that probably at the end of the day are the biggest deal.
Speaking of results, the team last night, the 23rd ranked Illini women's basketball team, had a chance to open up their season. They get an 81-61 win against Morehead State. No Micaiah Cook last night for the Illini, but Genesis Bryant goes off for 32 points. What'd you see from her last night? Can you update us on the status of Micaiah Cook, and just for Genesis to be able to go out there and do that? What's that say?
Yeah, Micaiah Cook, first of all, is day-to-day. That's about all we know. We know she got hit in the exhibition game. She was not on the bench last night. We'll see. They go to Marquette on Saturday. We'll see what that looks like. But Genesis Bryant, you saw it last year. You remember, she didn't play those 2 years at North Carolina State. So a lot of this was kind of feeling basketball, playing at a high level, building yourself back up after, sitting on the bench for a couple of years. That's a tough pill to swallow when you were a 4-star recruit and had all of these things. So to get her back to that level, you saw her step into some point guard roles when Micaiah Cook was out sick last year. And they kind of split off and on with each other there. But she's really good, guys. And Micaiah Cook deserves every headline, every award and accolade she has coming to her, because she's an incredibly talented basketball player, a huge reason for this resurgence. But, man, Genesis Bryant's a star, too.
Yes.
She can shoot the heck out of it. She can facilitate. She can pass. She's been playing pretty good defense. I think last night that was my takeaway is, hey, they kind of got 2 stars back here in this backcourt, and it wasn't just raining threes for Genesis Bryant. We've certainly seen her get on those roles where she feels like she can't miss. She was aggressive in taking the ball to the hoop. She was aggressive in her mid-range. When they needed her, she delivered. And she is every bit the star that Illinois needs. And that backcourt, when Kyler Kirk gets back, it's a really, really talented backcourt.
All right, Joey, last one for you. And the real reason that I wanted to have you on today is that
All right.
Oh, boy.
Christian Watson's on my fantasy team, and he's not producing. So what's up?
Oh, I get it. They're terrible. The offense is terrific. What do you mean, what's up? Goodness gracious, it's awful. Christian Watson did get hurt last week in the injury. I don't know that I've seen an injury report mid-game. It's like he's being evaluated for a concussion and also his back and his chest. I thought, oh, my gosh, what's left of this guy here? He kind of fell awkwardly there. Yeah, I don't know, man. If you got another option, perhaps that would be your best route, because I was telling Jeremy on our way back from Minnesota, he's getting a good kick as you Bears fan. Get a good kick out of me having a little bit of a meltdown because I'm not used to. I know how to handle January when things are bad in the postseason, in the playoffs. I've seen that, and I understand how stupid that sounds. Like, yeah, gee, can you imagine? Like, you guys would love to have. I understand all of that. I don't know what to do when they're bad in November. This is like new for me. I don't enjoy it. It's not a fun way to go about things. I have a new respect for you, Derek Piper.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank
you. I appreciate
that. I've perfected bad in October sometime. I think if they even start by
half the teams that are bad in your eyes are just fine. With your favorite teams, now the Cardinals are bad.
Yeah.
But with your favorite teams, I enjoy watching the Lante emotional experience during a season, because it is a really, really wild ride to observe.
Lon's better off just avoiding Twitter. No,
I wouldn't say that.
It's entertainment for all of us.
You're very justified, Lon, in both of your Cardinals frustrations.
Oh, boy. Yeah, the Blues aren't very good. They got beat. Yeah, Sixers are just kind of they're good.
How'd that come about? I know we're on the radio.
Dr. J. Dr. J.
Oh, sure.
Yep. He's so most people would assume, as my love for the Cardinals baseball, that Stan Musial would be the reason I'd like the color red and number 6, but it's actually Dr. J. Dr. J has always been my favorite athlete ever. He was awesome, man. Julius.
The more you know. I didn't know that about you.
That's
what
it.
What other sports takes do we not know about you?
I played, let's see, nothing. Actually, now that I think about it, I got nothing else.
You get 2 hours on the radio every day. I don't know how many more sports you have.
I got nothing else other than that. That's really about it. I've got a pretty boring life, I think.
Oh, I wouldn't go that.
No, I think I got a cool life. That's the way to do it. I do know D.A. Points, who is the best athlete ever out of Pekin.
You're darn right.
Yep.
Jeremy Crouch, former Bradley shooter on that magical run, would probably like the word, but it's hard to argue D.A. Points.
Sometimes I go to Google and I'll just Google and then I'll read the stuff that's under that, right, that they bring up. And then they have like these ads. And someone had put out a story about Morton, Illinois, having the best barbecue in the state of Illinois. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, and I'm upset that I don't. I feel like I would know that if there was.
I can't remember the name of it. We need to make a road trip.
Look, I'm not trying to be a homer here, but I frequent Black Dog enough to think that might not be very true.
Yeah, well, that and Hickory River. I mean, we've got some good. In 17th Street down in Carbondale, Marion. I thought one of those would be the key, but yeah, we'll have to maybe you and Pipes and I can hit up a SIU at Illinois State basketball game at Redbird, and we'll roll through Morton and try out the best barbecue in the state of Illinois.
Let's do it. That sounds great. Let's do that.
And we'll eat Milky Ways on the way.
Nope.
That's awesome. Joey Wagner, you are great. Thank you. I know we were 10 minutes late for you. We apologize.
Hey, no problem, guys. It's been one of those days. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Keep up the great work, buddy. Thank you. Joey Wagner.
See you, Joey.
He's a funny dude and a good writer.
He's a lot of fun. Very good writer.
He just looks for those stories, doesn't he?
He's got an eye for it. Obviously, a way with words,
Mm-hmm.
scene setting, and just kind of the wit that he writes with too is very, very good. So,
you guys in Inquirer have some talented.
We do. We're lucky.
People. There's no doubt.
And we have a lot. Also, it's fun to just in the meantime while we're quote unquote working, not writing, sitting at games. He's a fun chat.
Oh, I can't imagine. I'm a VIP guy at Enquire.
I know you are.
Yeah, Kyle is.
So am I.
I just checked my account, and they just pulled the what is it now? $8,500 a year to be a VIP subscriber. I didn't realize that.
$8,500.
Am I getting screwed or something?
Man,
that's what they
I
took
would
out
say,
of my.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, if that's the case, I'm getting raised. So sweet.
No, it's cheaper than dirt to be able to read Illini stuff every day. It's
Maybe we
awesome.
should make it $8,500.
Yeah, you could try it.
I'm just kidding.
I don't think I'd stay with you.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know.
I love you, but I can hear you talk about it every day. I can hear it. Kyle, way to run the board, my friend.
Should we put you back here sometime coming up?
Yes.
soon?
Oh,
be hilarious.
I'm dreading that. Got to thank Joey Wagner on the Tapman's Towing phone line. Got to thank Piper for being late. I got to run the show today. I haven't done this in a while. Kind of felt good to do that. I even let Kyle come in on one break because I hadn't got my sucker done. Yeah. So I was like, you're going to have to bring us in. That's how I do it with the young kids.
Classic line.
I just have to make them, otherwise they don't want to do it.
They got to learn.
You got to do it, man. You just jump in. All right, Pipes, look forward to reading your stuff on Enquire about everything that happened today. Tomorrow we'll hear some fresh Brett Bielema. Get you ready for Illinois, Indiana. A lot to do. No more Cubs talk tomorrow. That's even better.
Yes.
Unless they sign someone. Unless Ohtani becomes a Cub overnight.
If they sign Ohtani, you can have all 2 hours. You can have all 2 hours.
I'm not coming in.
You can set up all the Cubs guests you want and just have 2 hours, and Piper and I'll sit on the couch. Piper's not coming in. Perfect.
Deal.
Let's get out of here. And Philo, once again, a train coming through right at the top of the hour. It's amazing how uncanny that is.